New Orgrimmar is coming, and it will be bigger. We all know bigger is better. We also know that Silvermoon was getting a revamp from the ground up. Now, there has been hints that Orgrimmar is in fact going to get revamped. I believe we saw a earthen dwarf talking about how this city needs to be rebuilt, or some plans on how this city could become better. And that was the first hint at a revamp of Orgrimmar. Let's see what else Doran, the truth teller, has discovered.
Let's be real. Orgrimmar kinda sucks. It was updated back in Cataclysm, got a new look, but it was nearly 15 years ago, and it really looks like a joke when you compare it with any other city we had gotten ever since, and this is like the Horde capital. Well, in the War Within beta, we just got first actual information that something may finally be coming that is going to change this situation. Puritan, that had just joined the faction, talk about opportunities to expand the capital,
this is what I mentioned.
Harbor, change some of the cliffs, expand the city, expand the industry. This new Orgrimmar Harbor ties in perfectly with us going to Kazan, very likely in one of the patches.
I didn't even think about that.
Very close to Orgrimmar as well as.
Yeah, so if you're wondering what the hell's Doran getting at here, there's a bunch of hints that we're going back to Undermine, which is the city under Kazan that the goblins are originally from. It's their capital city, basically, that we've never seen in game, but we've heard hinted at many times. So yeah, a new dock for Orgrimmar, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Going to Kazan. Additionally, the Sword of Sergeras is going to be relevant in Kalimdor, so having a strong Orgrimmar is going to be an asset. So what is all this new information, and what type of a revamp is Orgrimmar going to get? If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Amiibo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORAN, you can get an even bigger discount, so make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Amiibo. So at this point, revamps are a pretty obvious thing. Previously, we talked about the world revamp coming as the next expansion, but there has been about a dozen interviews this past year that on multiple occasions confirmed that revamps are going to be coming in batches, very gradually, but over time, we will see a large difference. We're probably not going to get a Cataclysm-style shattering event where the entire world changes the day the expansion is launched in the near future, but we are going to get a ton of these infusions every minor and major patch throughout the World's Soul Saga, and really, by the time the saga is over, we're going to be looking at a pretty different Azeroth. Yeah. As we know, a Silvermoon revamp is 100% confirmed. They said that they're going to not just be expanding the entire two-quarter last.
The way Blizzard has described the Silvermoon revamp is it's not really a revamp, it's a complete rebuild. Just remember, Silvermoon was never redone when flying came into the game. When they introduced flying into Azeroth, they had to rebuild a lot of the game because the tops of trees and buildings and shit were kind of just like wide open because they were never meant to be seen by players. So they redid a lot of that, except the plague lands up there and everything else. Silvermoon never got that. That's why you still can't fly there. So Blizzard is essentially tearing down Silvermoon, rebuilding it from the ground up and expanding it, which it should be. I'm very excited to see it. You know, since the Dead Scar and everything, it should be healed. That shit should be past now. So Silvermoon's very excited. Now, if they do the same thing for Orgrimmar, that'd be pretty wild.
Expanding the entire two-quarter last with new models, but there will be new teams, like everything is going to be different and everything is going to be bigger. Then we got Undercity and Gilnea's Heritage questlines that didn't really do much other than clearing the plague and setting up the workers that are supposedly building Gilneas. But this is such an obvious setup for new models and new cities that are going to be coming in Midnight, but the expansion is going to be based on this part of the continent. Now, obviously, in Dragonflight, the Night Elves didn't just get a new city, but an entire new island, which was most major of these questlines. And most interestingly, if you follow the recent Draenei Heritage questline, the Draenei laid out a concept for a new city that they're going to establish somewhere on Azeroth, and we still don't really know the details how that is going to work out. I mean, for the Draenei, this of course makes sense, as Azeroth is now their permanent home. So, as you can see,
they do need a more permanent. I mean, the Exodar being the city for the Draenei is still kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they can build architectural marvels like Shattrath and stuff, like beautiful looking cities, and they're stuck in a ship that crash landed. Still, that's their capital. So yeah, that would be nice. Now, one thing I want to say is, why are all these cities getting revamped and rebuilt? Why is every race being ensured like their own capital city once again? Guys, I really think this could be a hint at player housing. Now, I'm not a player housing Andy, but to me, it doesn't make sense to redo all these cities just to have them be ghost towns. It doesn't make sense. Now, I've said before they should like rotate the Traveler's Log, the Traveler's Camp or whatever. Not Traveler's Log. Yeah, the freaking Traveler's Log. Yes, around so people can actually do that shit in different cities and actually be sent to different cities, create a hub for the week. But in terms of player housing, to me, that seems like a decent hint at why they're doing this.
Half a dozen setups for restored capitals that we are going to get in a short span of time, and by the new information from the War Within beta, it looks like Orgrimmar is going to be right next down the line. Let's just be completely blunt and honest, Orgrimmar kinda sucks. I mean, the original Orgrimmar had a nostalgia feel to it, but it really felt like a large camp as opposed to like the capital city
sticks
of the
and
fort.
huts,
And then Garrosh came in and militarized it and turned the entire city into a gigantic fortress, but this happened like back in 2010, and it really feels so outdated now, especially when compared to pretty much any other major city we have gotten ever since. By the new hints, it doesn't seem like Orgrimmar is going to get completely restructured, as we are going to get like a Suramar type Orgrimmar is going to be like 5 times bigger, but they're heavily implying that they're going to expand areas of it, very likely changing some of the cliffs, adding some new buildings, expanding the harbor. So the actual evidence for this is not just my speculation, comes from the Earthen NPC that is now based in Orgrimmar called Modalm. Obviously, after the Khazakar questlines, the Earthen can now officially join the Horde, and one of them is talking with a Blackrock Orc that is also a part of the Horde. The Orc is telling him about the Blackrock Foundry from Draenor, how this was like the fortress of industry, an incredible orcish accomplishment of their industry that was lost, but he didn't really want to further explain why it was lost. And then they both essentially agree how Orgrimmar sucks, how despite the fact that the entire capital is a major fortress, it has a terrible, small and scattered industry with forges that don't exactly resemble a capital of the entire Horde. Then the Earthen talks about how the opportunities to expand his newfound capital are endless, especially with the Earthen techniques they had mastered, living underground for thousands and thousands of years and working all the forges. He mentions a seaside cooling system to supplement the Orgrimmar industry, cliff-carved quarries, and even a new port for trade. Now, when you think about this is
interesting. I mean, remember Stormwind in the update post Cataclysm when it got rebuilt, got that huge port. Like, that was a big deal. It's a massive area that got added onto Stormwind. So maybe it's Orgrimmar's turn to get something very similar.
Perfect sense, is the Earthen, as I said, have techniques that no one else has, and they're hardworking people, so obviously they're going to work on their new capital as well. And this is like the perfect opportunity for Blizzard to do like a half revamp of the terribly outdated Orgrimmar. However, I know what you may be thinking. I mean, this is literally just one NPC dialogue that could literally just be flavor text. You know, some drunken Earthen just rambling. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to update the capital, but it does actually align with all the other hints we had gotten throughout the alpha and the beta and what is to come in the World Soul Saga. First of all, it seems like Thrall has at least on a few occasions actually returned to Orgrimmar. We can see his model in the beta.
And Thrall returns. I didn't know that. So Thrall returns to Orgrimmar. That's an interesting one. Could be something for the 20th anniversary surprise. Yeah, maybe Konesia. I didn't even think about that. They are doing, that is confirmed, they're doing a 20th anniversary event. Right, that's going to happen in November. That's going to be the anniversary time now. Whether that's going to involve revamps and stuff, I have no idea. But yeah, that's a good point. The gear guy broke. Doesn't bother me. The gear capped. Yeah. 2 weeks, easy game. Look, the whole thing is, could it happen? Will it happen? I would almost say it's guaranteed to happen because yes, the Orgrimmar updates from Garrosh, who did nothing wrong, certainly is outdated.
It's going to be related to the story of the War Within. Second is that they specifically mention expanding and updating the port. If you might have noticed something about Orgrimmar, that is that it has a terrible, tiny little port that is about the size of Ratchet. When you compare this to the Stormwind Harbor, that is like a huge military harbor with massive ships, it is actually ridiculous. And also, remember, originally Stormwind didn't have this type of a gigantic harbor. They just added this in Wrath of the Lich King, which was a similar half revamp they slipped in for the upcoming Northern expedition.
Wait a minute, was it Wrath that we got the port, or was it post Cataclysm? I thought it was post Cataclysm that we got the modern day. Maybe Wrath put the small port in, and then we got the nice new one that we got here as post-Cataclysm.
However, now the real question is, why exactly would they update Orgrimmar when we're going to Khazakar in the War Within, we're going to the Eastern Kingdoms and Silvermoon in Midnight, and Northern in the Last Titan, and actually, there are quite a few hints we had gotten even now. First of all, the War Within and the Last Titan are going to be pretty large expedition that are going to require a massive harbor to send them, especially Last Titan, as I feel like this is going to be a really major expedition, not just like what we're sending to Kazakar, like it is going to be an all-out invasion of Northrend. The most important reason though is what is heavily hinted to be coming in the War Within, which means this Orgrimmar revamp may literally be happening as soon as 11.1. So if you guys have been following the news and what we had data mined, there are so many of these goblin assets, there are a ton of actual goblins in Kazakar, and very heavy hints that we may be going to Undermine in the Goblin Isle of Kazan. Despite the volcano explosion and cataclysm, Kazan hasn't actually been destroyed, it is still active, but most of the goblins that joined the Horde have moved to Orgrimmar, and now it might finally be
Man, if they do revamp Orgrimmar, they do need to fix the goblin area. It's a literal ghetto. They live like in some kind of like swampy, oil-infested area in Orgrimmar, like in a back corner. These guys need like a little bit more legitimate spot, kind of like the dwarves in Stormwind, right? Like the dwarven district is legit. Like it looks like an actual area where the dwarves kind of moved in and took it, made it their own. The goblin area in Orgrimmar, my God, it is just horrible. It's sad.
And for them to go back home. Now, take a look at the official Chronicle map and examine where Kazan is, as well as Kazakar. Kazan is not actually that far from Orgrimmar shore, and it is also quite close to Kazakar as well. Even more interestingly, I'd wager that Kazan and Kazakar are actually physically connected. Recent alpha information told us that a Nerubian tunnel exists between Kazakar and Northrend because we learned that Anubrak asked for reinforcements to arrive to this exact tunnel that never actually came. Now, once again, examine the map and imagine where this tunnel would go. It would literally pass directly through Kazan and all the way into Azul Nerub in Northrend.
Makes sense.
Additionally, if this old god ancient tunnel exists, it is likely that a tunnel also exists to the Akir that are around the Sword of Sargeras, but that is a topic for another video. The point is, if we do get patch content of going back to Kazan, we will need the Orgrimmar port in order to send the expedition, as it is logistically the biggest base to mount an expedition from. I'm guessing we're going to be examining the underground connection as well, but we will also need troops and ships above the ground as well. Because it is, I think it is actually highly realistic that the Orgrimmar revamp will be happening very soon. Like, it is perfectly laid out. Technologically advanced, certain, join the Horde, and this is the excuse they need to expand the capital with this new technology. The expedition is the excuse to expand the port. Furthermore, there is an absolute ton of empty space around Orgrimmar and Enduratar, so this isn't even really all that much work. They won't really need to do any major reconstructions. They would need to do something akin to the Stormwind Harbor, add a few more ports, places for big warships and the Zeppelins. To supplement this, they might carve out some of the cliffs for the Zeppelins and also expand the industry for like the visual effect of the Horde improving and expanding.
Even the carving out of the cliffs that he just mentioned, I can imagine the Earthen. Oh yeah, the Earthen arrived. These guys know how to dig. They can play a big role in that. Yeah.
The economy for this
all this makes sense.
Conflict. So realistically, we're probably not going to get a gigantic new Orgrimmar with every building updated like we're going to get an entirely new Silvermoon, but we are looking at least a significantly enlarged Orgrimmar harbor, changes to some of the buildings, and also changes to some of the cliffs that are surrounding Orgrimmar. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on the 2 new summons we could get in the patches for the War Within by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the ancient Roman mythology and the cult of Mithras by clicking on the screen as well.
Nice video.
See you next time.
Yeah, what about the Alliance? Would they have to go through Orgrimmar? No, I don't think so. I don't think Stormwind or Orgrimmar will ever go cross-faction. I just think that's... I mean, I guess you could never say never at this point in WoW. But I just think those cities are very much identified with their factions, and it'll always stay that way. No, the Stormwind will probably go through some kind of, like, gnome quest line or something like, oh yeah, we... technological advancements with goblins, and we're going to go see their city and all that shit. And we'll do some kind of quest line where we go out through a ship leaving Stormwind to go to Undermine. That'll probably be how it works. Now, as far as Orgrimmar goes and the revamp and everything, I think Doran presented some legitimate evidence here. He is the truth teller, after all. Everyone always hates on Doran. He actually does come up with some really good theories at times, and does relate it a lot to evidence. I do think the Earthen's line about revamping Orgrimmar is not just there for shits and giggles. I think it is hinting at the fact that they are going to do this. Oribos should be sent to an Alliance city. Oh my god. I hope we never go back to Oribos ever again. That is the worst fucking city ever. Horrible design. Yeah, Oribos should blow up. The sky dildo. Yeah. I could never even figure out where I was in that city. Till to the last day of the Shadowlands expansion, I could not figure out where the hell I was. Ever. The worst.